budget should not authorize any withdrawal of public funds by the county government of Isolo until the governor has responded to issues raised in the summons to the satisfaction of senators, and that too, the National Treasury, pursuant to Articles 225 of the Constitution and Section 98 of the Public Finance Management Act, stops forthwith the transfer of funds to the county government of Isolo. The development of a policy and law for social risk management in matters infrastructure development projects in Kenya is a motion by nominated Senator Catherine Muma, who has listed in a motion that aware that the Constitution has entrenched a strong Bill of Rights in Chapter 4, which recognizes human rights, including social, economic rights, and the principle of equality and non-discrimination. And whereas aware that Kenya lacks a policy for the guiding of management of these social risks in the design and implementation of its infrastructure project, and the senator in her motion is concerned that there is inadequate attention to social risks in the planning and implementation of development projects at both the national and county government levels, making them unacceptable and ending up in the rise in the cost of the taxpayer colossal sums of money in suits filed before courts and tribunals by local communities and the affected interest groups seeking protection from such social risks. The nominated senator, Senator Catherine Muma, seeks to have the Senate resolve that the national government, the county governments do develop a social risk management policy that outlines the standards, guidelines, and procedures for guiding infrastructure and other development projects, both at the national and at the county government, and that too, the national executive establishes an independent multi-sectoral agency under the authority of Cabinet Secretary in charge of Social Security and Protection. The Cabinet Secretary in charge of Social Security and Protection will be overseeing the national executive. The independent multi-sectoral agency that will be overseen by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Social Security and Protection, and the multi-sectoral agency will be designing a mechanism that can factor in the inclusion of social impact assessment standards and also monitor their implementation in infrastructure and other development projects in Kenya. Our dear viewers, we are waiting to see if the Senate of Kenya this morning will raise the quorum to commence business this morning. And in the event that the House fails to raise the quorum, then the Speaker, pursuant to the standing orders, is empowered by the standing orders to direct that the House is adjourned, or the Speaker rules that the House is adjourned until the next time when the House will be sitting. Today being a Tuesday, we equally have another sitting in the afternoon, but that directive is pegged on whether the House will have raised quorum this morning. The consideration of bursary funds for equitable access to education in Kenya is a motion by the Senator for Kiambu County, Senator Gachagua'S. Senator Dhangwa has listed in his motion that aware that pursuant to Article 53 of the Constitution, every child in Kenya is entitled to free and compulsory basic education and Basic Education Act. Basic education should be guided by the principles such as equitable access to all youth and equal access to education institutions. The Senator has noted in his motion that over the years, various interventions have been made, including the issuance of bursaries through the National Government Constituency Development Fund, popularly known as NGCDF, And the National Government Affirmative Action, NGAF, the Ministry of Education, and the county governments through various county bursary funds. The Senator is concerned that despite these efforts, school fees remains unaffordable for many parents, and the allocation of bursaries has been plagued by nepotism, favorism, and political manipulation, as well as lack of transparency and accountability. Further concerned that public learning institutions are primarily funded by the government through the Ministry of Education, and in the financial year 2024-2025, approximately 656 billion shillings were allocated to the education sector, making it difficult to ascertain the transparency in the disbursement of bursaries from various agencies, which, according to the Senator, makes it difficult to determine the total amount allocated in the financial year, and thus hindering the efforts to ensure equitable access to education. Allow me to hand over back to the chamber. The Senator for Kiambu County, Senator Karungo Dhangwa, in his motion in regards to the consolidation of bursaries for the equitable access to education of Kenya, seeks to have the Senate urge the Ministry of Education to audit the funds allocated to bursaries, both the national government and the county governments, that there is consolidation of funds distributed by various government entities and agencies with the aim of directing that these funds directly be sent to schools as supplementary capitation to facilitate the achievement of free secondary education. And that number 3, there is a calculation of the cost of education per learner, and make this information public for primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions, including a detailed breakdown of the annual financial requirements of each student across the country. The House, away from considering the motion on consolidation of bursary funds and calculation of monies, popularly known as per capita per learner, the House is this morning set to consider the report of the 9th Interparliamentary Union Global Conference of Young Parliamentarians held in Vietnam. The other report is the 14th, the report of the 14th Ordinary Session of the Plenary Assembly and related meetings of the Forum of Parliaments of the International Conference of the Great Lakes region, held in Livingstone, Zambia, from the 15th to the 19th of April 2024. Senator Veronica Maina, on behalf of the Senate caucus, that represented Kenya in the parliamentary delegation to the 2024 Joint United Nations Interparliamentary Union parliamentary hearings that were held in the United Nations headquarters in New York, United States of America, from the 8th to the 9th of February 2024, is seeking to have the Senate note the report of the parliamentary delegation to the 2024 Joint United Nations Interparliamentary Union parliamentary hearings held in the United Nations headquarters in New York. The team laid its report on the table of the House on the 17th of September 2024. The report of the proceedings of the Parliamentarians' Dialogue to the African Climate Summit 2023, held in the National Assembly Chamber, Parliament Buildings in Nairobi, between the 3rd to the 6th of September 2023, is yet another motion lined up for deliberations this morning. This motion is by Senator for Homa Bay, Senator Moses Kajwang, who is seeking to have the Senate note the report of the proceedings of Parliamentarians' Dialogue.
Honorable Senators, there being no quorum and having rung the bell pursuant to provisions of standing under 40 subsection 2, the Senate stands adjourned until later today, 15th October 2024 at 2:30 p.m.